Hi guys, welcome to the video you've all been waiting for. Welcome to our apartment tour. So as you come in, the first thing you meet is our entryway closet, which is for clothes and shoes and whatnot. We have been very slowly getting our winter gear, getting ready for that -40. And then in here you have a little hallway, and if you follow the hallway you can either take a left or you can go down the stairs. So today we'll take a left, and as soon as you make a left you come into another little hallway area, and the door straight across leads you into the laundry room. So we have our laundry room area here, we have our washer and our dryer, and hopefully we'll be able to organize it soon. To the left of the laundry room you have a bedroom. It's actually quite small. We're hoping to put bunk beds in here, do a little reading nook for the girls in here. They have their own closet, which is amazing. We want to add a dresser, and we just have a lot of plans for our space that hopefully you guys will stick around to see sometime in the future. When you leave the girls' room, we have a little area here that we hope to get a nice big bookshelf so we can store all of our books, all our family games. Right here we have a 4-piece bathroom. So we have a sink here and a lot of wasted space. In our opinion, it could have been double sinks, but we have a toilet, and then we have a bath, which the girls and I absolutely love. I love this bathroom. It's quite different from our bathroom back home. It was very small, and we really do appreciate the extra space since we're all sharing it, as the apartment does not have a master bathroom. So in here is our master bedroom, which we love because it's very big and very spacious. This area right here, I can imagine like a desk to have like a small office area. We have our bed here. I think we have space for a dresser as well. We each have our own closet, so we have one closet here, we have another closet area here, and overall this is a very nice big space, and we're looking forward to making it our own. So this is upstairs, and then if you come with me we head downstairs. I can easily imagine a nice picture gallery wall in this area here. Stay tuned for that sometime in the future. When you come downstairs, we have quite a pretty open concept living area here. So if you're tuning in for the first time, my husband and I, we recently moved from St. Lucia to Canada as new immigrants. So we are starting over. We've been here for roughly about a month, and so we're slowly making this place our home. This area here is the living room area, which we envision maybe a television set here, a nice L-shaped sectional here, maybe another bookshelf here, and in this area we have our dining room. We also use this as our homeschool area, and I imagine maybe another set of storage in this area. We think we might put a deep fridge over here. So lots of room to make this space our own. And then if you continue along, we have our kitchen. It's a little bit dark, but that's okay. We love the space. I think it has a lot of storage, because we have both top and bottom cabinets with a lot of storage, a lot. So for example, we have shelves here, lots and lots of shelving. We have shelving in this area, we have shelving at the bottom here, and we are making use of all of it. In fact, this area here is my homeschool cupboard, where we have all of the things for homeschool right here. And then the apartments, most apartments in Canada, which is different from where I came from, come with appliances. Ours came with a dishwasher, a cooktop and oven, a microwave, as well as a refrigerator. So we're loving this space. There's also a few doors here. So this door leads to where the HVAC system is, which we use for a little bit of storage. So I guess, you know, whatever makes the area warm and cool is in here. And there's a little extra floor space here, so we use it for storage. And this is one of my favorite parts of the kitchen. We have a lovely pantry right here, We have a lot of storage, which I am loving, which as you guys see, I have fully taken advantage of, and we have been really enjoying this space here. And then the last door leads to some under staircase storage area as well. So right now we currently have the kids' bike stored in here and winter tires for our car stored in here as well. But we need to clean this up, do some organization, put some bins in here, you know, make it ours and make the space more fruitful. So that is it for our apartment, and one of the other favorite areas is right outside. So let me take you to see this view. So right off the living room area, we have a really pretty view of the lake, and it's just about the beginning of summer, and we see ourselves eventually sometime in the future putting a grill out here, some outdoor furniture, enjoy this lovely view and spend time as a family. It's one of our favorite places. The girls love to come out here. We put a blanket on here, they sit, they bring their books, they read whenever the temperature is permitting. All right, so now that we've shown you our lovely little home, we're gonna sit down with my husband. We'll talk about how much we're paying for this home, how much utilities are costing us. We'll also share a little bit of how we were able to secure this apartment before we even landed in Canada. So let's get into that right now. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about the apartment. Do you think it's pretty? Do you think it's cute and cozy? Obviously it's not furnished yet, we're taking this one step at a time, but let us know what you guys think. We fell in love from the time we saw it, and it was a no-brainer, and we were very satisfied when we actually stepped foot in the apartment.
Yeah.
So when we started looking for apartments, we knew that we wanted to have one rented out before we landed in Canada. A lot of people, they come to Canada, they rent an Airbnb for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on how difficult it is securing an apartment, and then they move into an apartment, which we did not want, because one, an Airbnb would be an extra,
it would be an extra cost, and we wanted to feel settled when we came in. We have 2 kids, moving into an Airbnb and then moving into another place, it just felt like a struggle, and we preferred to get into an apartment as soon as possible. What were some of the things that we were looking for? One, I know I did not want a basement apartment, which is interesting because this level of our apartment is kind of basement-ish, but not, you know, like there are some apartments where the entire thing is on the basement floor, and we didn't want that because usually it's a lot darker. As you saw in the kitchen, there's just one window at the top here because the rest is underground, and that window is above ground. So the basement apartment will have all of the windows will be like that window, because it's like a legal requirement to have an egress window or something like that.
So the apartment will be dark. Usually it's very cold in basement apartments. We've experienced that when we set the temperature. Almost always this floor is a little colder than upstairs, so we didn't want that. You guys know winters in Edmonton supposedly are brutal, so we did not want to experience a cold basement.
Yeah. Plus we also had you could say a little bit of personal experience from St. Lucia. There was a time we were living in an apartment that was like a basement or underground level, like a bottom floor, and it was quite dark. So it turns out that living in those kind of apartments, it can be, for example, quite dark, so dark that you need the lights on during the day.
Yeah, we didn't like that. We knew for sure we wanted a place that was very
airy and light,
and very bright. The other thing that we knew we did not want was an apartment building. Well, Ibrahim and I differed in that aspect. I preferred not to live in an apartment building. He was okay, but considering that the girls are home with us most of the time, they can get rowdy. You know how it is if you have little ones, and considering we have somebody who lives up there and we can hear when they walk up and down, so
we don't hear voices. We've not had
we don't hear voices, so we don't hear conversations, but you can definitely hear when somebody's walking upstairs. And I figured that would be the case for an apartment where I'd have to tell the kids, hey, stop jumping, stop running, stop this. I knew I didn't want an apartment building. It just felt very restrictive, especially having the little kids.
And the apartment buildings were a little small, but we'll talk about that when we talk about costs and some of those things.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what we were looking for.
And affordability.
Well, we had a price range and we didn't want to spend more than $1,600 on rent a month.
We could go a little bit more. Less would be ideal, but 1006 was about what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Most of the things that we were looking for, we looked on Kijiji. It's a website. We also looked on Facebook Marketplace. There are also lots of rental companies that have websites online. So we were looking at these, and I would say most 2-bedroom 1-bath or 2-bedroom 2-bath apartments were about that price range. 1006, 1007. Obviously, there were ones that were way above that price range, like 18, 19, and there were some that were below, like 11, 12. But of course, you know, the amenities were different in the sense that the cheaper ones were less modern looking. They looked like they had a bit more wear and tear, and of course the ones that were on the higher price range, they were definitely more modern, more spacious, newer. They had extra living space like a den, etc, etc. So we wanted to fall somewhere in the middle. Yes, we wanted to keep our expenses low, but neither did we want to be very uncomfortable where we were going to live for a while, and neither did we want to blow our budget by going.
That's big, because one of the places you're going to be spending a lot of time when you come in a new country is the place that you're going to call home. And from, you know, all our research, listening to other people that have come in before us, sometimes the regrets and things that they had made was in terms of the decision on where it is that they chose to live.
During winter time.
Especially during winter, where you're going to be spending a lot of time indoors. It's going to be dark outside.
And cool.
You want a place where it's cozy, it's home, and you're comfortable. So everybody has different tastes, and different people have different things that might be deal breakers, but that was definitely one of the things that we looked at.
Yeah.
So like Lynette was mentioning, in terms of the things and the places you can go to look for apartments, usually you can either rent directly from a landlord, or you're renting from an agent or an agency or home management, rental management company. So usually the landlords will put most of their places up for rent in places like Facebook Marketplace, sometimes Kijiji. But then when you look at, you can just go in on Google and just check rental apartments in Canada, and you'll see a whole set of websites and different places that you could check out. But they will usually be agents. Now, what are the drawbacks if you're a newcomer looking to rent? Some of the drawbacks are some of the requirements that, you know, will be hard in terms of renting an apartment, right?
So basically, when you apply to be able to rent an apartment, there are specific things that they ask you to send in in order for your application to be accepted. There are several things that they ask for, some of which as a newcomer you just do not have.
Yeah, and that makes it a little tricky. Already it's tricky because you're out of the country. If you're looking from out of the country, you can't really view the apartments yourself. And some renters or apartments, they don't do virtual walk-in, so you can't do it on a phone or online on those things. So you're just going based off of pictures. And then sometimes we've seen things like them asking for police checks. Credit check is quite common, but you don't really have a credit history in Canada, so that's a bummer. And then there's things like they'll ask for letters of or proof of employment sometimes, and you know, you're coming in, not everybody comes in with a job.
Most people don't come in with
a letter. So like all of these things become barriers, and it's understandable because the landlords are trying to protect themselves, because the laws in Canada is like, if somebody's renting under you, it's very difficult to just kick them out of the place where they're renting. So they try to protect themselves, and in doing so, if you're a newcomer and you don't have these things, one of the last resorts and things that they end up asking for is that you pay 3 to 6 months rent upfront. So we've heard reports of multiple people who came in and did this before us, and sometimes they've had to pay about 3 months or 6 months rent upfront. Now, again, it's money that's not towards security deposit. It's different, but it's counted as your rent. But not everybody can use all of that, like 3 months, 6 months rent upfront, pay for that, and then not everybody may have enough money left to kind of survive for the first few months while they're looking for jobs and all of those things.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the drawbacks. But that's basically how you can secure an apartment in Canada before you leave. you search on the different platforms that we mentioned, and then you reach out, whether that be to the agents, whether that be to the landlords who rent through Facebook Marketplace. And then they ask you for certain documents, a lot of which we cannot provide as newcomers. But the way to overcome that is usually by paying 3 to 6 months rent. Which the other drawback of that is that sometimes those ads are scams. And so, it's difficult imagining sending so much money for something that you haven't seen in person, especially if you don't have somebody who is on the ground and is able to do that for you. So if you have family, you have friends, somebody that you trust, then that would be a great option. They can also check out the place for you. Yeah. But if not, I personally would not recommend that. If we had not secured our apartment the way that we did, which we'll talk about in a second, I think we probably would have stayed at an Airbnb for a while and then look around ourselves before securing the apartment. So how did we secure our apartment? We actually used a settlement service. So there are several people who, as a job, as a side-time hustle, as their business, offer what they call a settlement service, which means that you pay them. It was a paid service, and they go around, they look for apartments for you, they secure apartments for you, and different persons have different offers. So for example, the person that we worked with, she's Kellis at Kellis Travels. She is the founder of Upro app, and Upro app is an app that's used to help newcomers settle into the service. I definitely recommend that you check it out. I'll have it linked in the description box below. But Kellis in particular, not only does she offer the ability to look at the apartments for you, send you videos of the apartments, pictures, whatnot, but she also secured the apartment in a way that we did not have to pay any money until we got here, which was very big for us, because if you don't have any friends here, you don't have any family members, it's difficult for you to be sending so much money across for something that you haven't seen in person.
Exactly.
And that was one of the reasons why we had absolutely no issues paying for her service, because she found us a place. She looked at multiple places before we settled on this one. We did not have to send any money at all until we got here, but yet still the place was guaranteed for us. We got the keys the same day that we
signed
arrived.
The lease before we actually came in. We signed the lease. We set up a whole bunch of stuff which we will get into. But one of the things that remember, landlords don't trust newcomers because they don't know who you are. It's just normal, right? But then having somebody that does settlement services and that goes in and looks for these apartments for you, usually they have some sort of relationship with these agents, the agencies, and they're able to, and that's why it's also paid, right? Because they put in themselves on the line, right? And their reputation, right? And so they're looking for you, and it's like at least they have somebody they can talk to face that can be like, hey, this person is coming in, and they could stand in for you and kind of help and look out and actually. And somebody who has more experience in the city where you're coming into, they might be able to look for things or tell you about certain things that you might not have thought of or you might not be thinking. So that also helps in that area. Plus, one of the good things with using the settlement service, for example, in Kellis's case, not only were we able to secure the apartment, but we also had assistance being able to set up utilities. So even before we came into Canada, before we traveled, with the Upro app, they had utilities consultants, like people. So we had a Zoom meeting. Was it a Zoom meeting or it was a call? It was a meeting,
a
virtual meeting with one of the somebody that does utilities, and they helped us set up the
pretty much all
water, sewage, electricity and gas, which is electricity and gas is the same as heating and stuff. So they did all of that. They helped us, give us links to insurance brokers who were able to help us to set up tenant insurance. So
and I think we used those same links to get our car insurance.
We used the same link because we already had the links with the insurance, so we helped them. They didn't even get us the actual car insurance, but they were able to link us to companies that were able to help us get good rates on car insurance. So all of those things, and it was just through the networking and through the Upro app.
And her Facebook group allows for a lot of networking, and we would highly recommend. So I'll have it linked in the description box below. So let's get into the costs.
Yeah.
I I'll be honest with you guys. I debated sharing the cost because these kinds of things, they're personal. People knowing your business and stuff like that. But this types of videos that people spoke about helped us so much when we were in the process of planning to go to Canada, when we wanted to have an idea of what life would be like, the cost of living, etc. And we want to extend that same sort of help because a lot of persons have reached out and they've told us, hey, we're in the process or we're interested. What did this cost? How did you do this? How did you do that? And that is our hope, to share some of the information so that it is beneficial to those watching.
And some of these things is not super big secrets anyways. We can start off by saying that we rent in a townhouse, right? And the difference between usually like the townhouses and the apartments is that most times the apartments come with utilities. Sometimes they'll come with things like internet and cable, water.
I've seen electricity
sometimes included.
And then there are some apartments
heating as well. Some of them will come with either heating and water. So it varies, right?
Some of them come with all utilities included. There are some where you have to pay just heat, some where you have to pay just electricity. So it varies. But what we found, when our apartment, our townhouse, most townhouses or most standalone houses that are for rent usually do not include any utilities. So our house does not have any utilities included, but the agent was able to give us an approximate of how much these townhouses generally pay for utilities. And what we found was that when you added the utilities that we would pay plus our rent, it was almost the same as
getting the
an apartment with utilities included.
Because interestingly, the apartments with utilities included, even though you look at the apartments, it looked a little smaller, space, was not so great and all of those other things. But because it had utilities included, the price of the apartment was like $100 or $200 more than what it is that you, at least in our case, what is it we're able to pick up our townhouse for.
Yeah. So with that, the cost of our townhouse, renting our townhouse is $1,400 a month.
Yeah.
So we pay $1,400 monthly, no utilities included. As you guys know, we're just settling in. So giving you an idea of what utilities cost is still, I would say, very much variable now. Because we haven't had enough months to have, to
be able to settle. And this is just summer. Bear in mind that in most places at winter time, because your consumption goes up, utilities tend to change a little bit. The estimates that we were given for utilities was at least you expect to pay between $300 to $350 monthly for utilities, in addition to your base rental.
Bring the total cost of the apartment to
about $1,750,
which I find is basically what I have seen most 2-bedroom apartments for now. $1,600.
The cheapest 2-bedroom we ever saw apartment, 2-bedroom, that was good, was about $1,550. That was the
only internet and cable was included.
And only internet and cable was included. So you have to pay for electricity and heating and some of those other things as well. So, but we do have estimates, right? So our internet provider, we decided to go with a company called Oxio. You could check that out. They actually, so sometimes you'll have like big utility providers, and then you have like some smaller utility providers that kind of link to these big companies, but they're not as expensive. So we pay in about $50 a month. There's different packages. We
chose the cheapest one, obviously.
It's quite okay for basic needs.
Our goal is to keep expenses super low until
it's actually not the cheapest package. There's ones cheaper than that.
Oh yeah.
But from what a little bit of the things that I did in terms of research, those speeds that you were getting for $30, $40 was a little too low,
but I still don't like the speed that we have now.
No, so here's the thing: it's good for normal use, so browsing, phone calls, video calls. It's excellent.
The only issue I should say I have with the speed of editing is when we upload the YouTube videos. So if you're not doing YouTube or anything like that, then the $50 a month
is perfectly fine. You don't super. Most people don't know this, but the kind of tend to overpay for internet because they go, oh, it's 1 terabyte speed. You don't need all of that. You don't need all of that.
But I would like to upgrade at some point in time.
At some point, we will definitely upgrade because we do a lot of social media. We're uploading stuff to YouTube, so it still works, but it's a little slower than we would like. So at some point, that can be upgraded. But for a start, it was good, and there's no other fees. It's no contract. That's big. Some internet providers or utility providers, if you cancel your contract or you decide to switch at some point, you might have to pay some cancellation fees. There was no activation fees, no cancellation fees. Again, check out the website. I will put a link for a referral. You can use our referral code and see what you're able to get in terms of good deals and stuff. The next estimate we can give is maybe water. So for the water and sewage, there's only one company in Edmonton that provides water, and then they have different like utility sublets. But when we got our water bill this month, well, actually we got an activation fee, which is kind of standard. It's like, how did they explain it? It's like a deposit, right?
Yeah, so they billed us $175, It included a $25 fee as well as $150 something activation fee, basically, because we came here on the 30th of May, so essentially we didn't use anything for
they billed us for 1 day, and it was like a couple of like 30 cents. So if we use that and extrapolate, let's say we use $1 every day, that should be about $30.
We have heard from other people the estimates for water is usually about $50 a month.
About 50. So we'll see about $50.
But there is a one-time fee, and what they explained was that after you've used the service for 12 months, that money goes into your account as a credit. A credit, so it goes towards your future water bills. It's just a one-time fee that you eventually get back after 12 months. We had to do the same thing for electricity and gas as well. We did have to pay an activation fee, which we paid before we even came. I kind of forgot that. And they also said that it would be refunded after 12 months of using the service and paying bills on time.
Yeah, we'll put the amount somewhere around here. And we did get an electricity and gas bill for this month already, and let me preview that by saying that we did use the heating for the first week or so thereabouts.
It was cold.
It was a little chilly the first few weeks, but there was a couple of things that I learned was when you at least come into Canada and you renting or whatever, you kind of have to learn about the heating system, except if you're coming from a place that already does that. We don't. So you kind of want to learn a little bit about that.
We had to figure out the HVAC system.
The heat and the HVAC, and learn about it, and
like
what
the
are the things
between the fan
and all of those things. So for us, what was happening was that the fan was on and it was doing ventilation, so it was bringing in cold air from inside. So overnight, when the temperature dropped, like the temperature in the house will drop. So it took us a couple of days to figure out that, hey, the fan doesn't have to be on the whole time. We could put it off and then only maybe put it on if we want once or twice for like an hour or so during the day.
For ventilation.
For ventilation, right? To ventilate the building. Our building is fairly new, and I was thinking we shouldn't be experiencing that much of a temperature drop. So the next thing that I did was, after using the heating for almost a week every morning, I went to the windows, and it turns out one of the windows in the downstairs room area was actually slightly ajar, and there was a cold draft coming in. So I closed that window, checked all the windows, make sure that they properly sealed, and that's when we actually noticed that it was a little different, and switched off the ventilation fan. And so what we noticed was the nights were a little bit warmer, and then the mornings was not super cold, and then we didn't use heating after that first week thereabouts. And we've not really used the AC because we just opened the door, let fresh breeze come in. So with all that being said, our electricity and gas heating bill still came up to $78.
To be fair, I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it's good because
so that means our total cost of utilities would be, so if we say water is going to be about $50 and gas was like $80, that's $130 plus another $50 for internet, that would be $180.
Yeah, total for utilities.
Yeah.
All right, and I mean, you could still be like, hey.
So that means the total cost of housing, like the house and utilities, would be $1,580, which is not bad.
Really is excellent, considering that the consensus was really, should we go for the apartment that was like 1,550 that had water and something included?
I think it's internet or cable.
Yeah, water
cable
and
is
internet
not,
or something. Yeah, cable is not something for us. We don't even have a TV right now, so it's like,
and we probably wouldn't do cable anyway.
Yeah,
we use like Disney Plus,
streaming services.
We use streaming services. We watch a lot of YouTube. We don't even watch Netflix.
Yeah,
so
we never had, even from.
I think the only reason Ibrahim would want cable would be to watch the
yeah, we just watch sports and stuff like that. So yeah, but
besides that, we don't do cable. But so far, our utilities seem to be costing $1,600 if we round it off.
600.
1,006.
Well, yeah, but
if we round
so could always still take the electricity and gas and be like, okay, this is just 1 month.
We are expecting a slight increase.
A slight increase and stuff. Well, during winter.
Maybe we can update you guys.
We'll definitely give an update as to how those things are going, but that's what we've experienced so far, and so far it doesn't seem like anything so off the charts as opposed to what we were anticipating.
Yeah, we were scared.
Is good.
we were scared. We were wondering. We thought the way. Okay, so basically, when we told people that we were renting a townhouse, they're like, "Oh, a townhouse, utilities are crazy in a townhouse." So we thought, okay, what if like the bills came up to be like $400-500? So in addition to like the rent,
so that becomes counterproductive. Then it's like, I know I want all these facilities of having a nice. A good house, like a townhouse, right? But I don't know if it's worth it as compared to like an apartment or something like that. But
so far, it seems like it's very doable. And the other thing I would add, it's not like we're crazy. I don't feel like we're crazy. Like, oh, don't take a bath. Like we give the girls bath.
Oh yeah.
It's not like, oh, don't use the water. Or
in fact, that's why I gave the preamble of that we actually were using heating during summer, which most people don't. So in fact, I will say that we have, in this first few months, we still kind of settling in, and there's quite a few things that we still haven't dialed in and toned down and possibly could do. So it may very well, for example, decrease, or even if it increases, not by much. Because one of the very important things that I learned when it comes to some of those things is the kind of house that you're staying in. Right. This is a newer house, so a house that is less than 10 years old is practically considered a newer building, right? But if you stay in a building if you rent a building that's older than 20 years, then that's where you begin to see some costs and some things going on. At least those are some of the things I've learned. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other thing that we could be doing to improve on some of those bills. If you have any recommendations, please get in the comments. We read it and we'll check them. Yes, and of course it will help others as well. You could give your own experiences, and it could help others as well, making this decision.
So if you're watching this from like Vancouver, British Columbia, I'm pretty sure that paying $1,400 for a 2-bedroom townhouse is really good, and that is precisely why one of the reasons why we chose Alberta, because the economy allows for cheaper housing, and that's one of the advice that a lot of people give, and I think like we would echo the same sentiments.
Absolutely.
If you're going someplace, you're coming to Canada for the first time, you're settling in, you're starting over, one of the things that's going to determine your level of progress and how well you do is where you choose to live.
Yeah, how well you settle in and into the society.
Because in places like Toronto, this kind of apartment might very well be like $2,000. So can you imagine having to pay $2,000+ for just rent, and then including everything else, especially if you're coming as a student with your family and you have to pay school fees and etc. So
it can get very pricey, and it can be harder to settle in
and make advances
make advances financially. Like it can really be a burden. So choosing where you go
decide to settle.
and the opportunities. Of course, housing is just one thing. There's
But
also
major. It's
the biggest expense that
yeah.
you will face, but also juggling that in terms of the
it's not just the
opportunities.
apartment. We're also thinking long term. The decisions we make are not just for now, but also long term. And in terms of housing, when we'll be ready to buy our house, the houses
Market is all-
the markets, the how do you call it, the housing market, the real estate market in Alberta is relatively way more affordable than in other places like Toronto and all of those things. So all of that factored into our decision in moving here, among other things. I guess we can probably talk about that in another video, like why we chose Alberta, etc., etc. We've been asked that
because we will most likely in terms of the housing and everyday expenses, we're already doing a video in terms of, look forward to that. So make sure you subscribe, you have your notifications on. There's quite a few things coming out in terms of like just our basic normal living expense in terms of grocery and stuff. So those are things that we'll highlight later on a later date.
And another video quite a few people have asked us for that we will be doing is like our PR journey, how exactly we were able to become permanent residents, what was the process like, what was the cost, etc., etc. So look out for that. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see some of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have company coming down the stairs right now. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
We made it just in time.